Let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who always seems unlucky? No matter what happens, something goes wrong. Traffic, bad timing, wrong people, missed opportunities. Every conversation with them sounds like an episode of "Look What Life Did to Me This Time." Now here's the strange part. If you spend enough time around them, you start believing they're right. You think, wow, life really has been hard on this person. But then something interesting happens. You meet another person. Same economy, same city, similar challenges. Yet somehow they keep finding opportunities. They keep meeting helpful people. They keep bouncing back. They're not pretending their life is perfect. They still have problems. They still get hurt. They still fail sometimes. But they walk through life as if something good could happen at any moment. And you wonder, how can two people live on the same planet and experience completely different worlds? Tonight, I want to talk about something that quietly controls almost everything in your life. And honestly, once you see it, it's difficult to unsee. Because most people spend years trying to change their circumstances. They want more money, a different job, better relationships, a new city, more confidence. But very few people realize that before they change their circumstances, they usually need to change something much deeper. The story they're carrying inside their own head. Because your brain is constantly telling you a story. And the scary part? Most of us don't even realize it's happening. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and someone secretly puts a pair of invisible glasses on your face. You don't know they're there. You can't remove them. You don't even know you're wearing them. But these glasses have one job. They make you notice every possible problem, every inconvenience, every criticism, every mistake, every reason to worry. How long do you think it would take before you became convinced that life is difficult? A month? A year? Probably not even a week. Because your brain would be gathering evidence all day long. You spill your coffee. Proof you hit traffic. Proof someone doesn't reply quickly. Proof, your brain would say, see? I told you. Life is hard. And here's the scary thing. Most people are already wearing invisible glasses. Some people wear glasses that say, I'm not good enough. Others wear glasses that say, people can't be trusted. Some wear glasses that say, nothing works out for me. And after wearing them long enough, something dangerous happens. They stop seeing the glasses. They think they're seeing reality. But they're not. They're seeing their filter. Now let's understand exactly how this filter works, because it operates on a level most people never realize. Think about this. Imagine walking into the biggest bookstore in the world. Millions of books. Books about happiness. Books about success. Books about failure. Books about heartbreak. Books about courage. Books about regret. Everything you've ever experienced is stored somewhere in this bookstore. Now imagine you walk inside and ask, show me every reason I'm not enough. Immediately, the librarian gets to work. Books about mistakes. Books about rejection. Books about embarrassing moments. Books about every time someone criticized you. After reading enough books, you leave convinced. Yep, I'm definitely not enough. But here's what's fascinating. There were also books about your courage, books about your resilience, books about the obstacles you've survived, books about the people who believed in you, books about the times you did difficult things anyway. Those books existed too. You simply didn't ask for them. And that is exactly how your brain works. Most people think they're asking, what's true? No, very often your brain is asking, how can I prove what I already believe? But it goes even deeper than that. Because your brain isn't just a library, it's also a search engine. Imagine your mind is a giant search engine. Type, I'm unlucky. Search, within seconds, memories appear. Missed opportunities, bad timing, failed relationships. Everything shows up. Now type, I'm resilient. Search, different memories appear. The heartbreak you survived, the challenge you overcame, the difficult season that didn't break you, the opportunities you created, the same brain, the same memories, completely different results. Why? Because questions direct attention, and attention shapes experience. And here's where it gets personal. Think about your phone for a second. Every day, hundreds of notifications appear. You don't open all of them. Some are ignored immediately. Some get deleted. Some get your full attention. Your brain works exactly the same way. Thousands of thoughts pass through your mind every single day. Some are hopeful. Some are fearful. Some are inspiring. Some are destructive. The thoughts you keep opening, the thoughts you revisit, the thoughts you emotionally invest in, those thoughts start becoming your reality. Now let me show you how this plays out in real life. Have you ever bought something and suddenly started seeing it everywhere? Maybe it was a certain car. You never noticed it before. Then suddenly it's on your street, at the supermarket, in traffic, at the gas station, everywhere. Did everyone suddenly buy that car? Of course not. It was always there. Your attention changed. And here's the question I want you to think about. If your brain can suddenly make one type of car appear everywhere, what else might your attention be creating? Maybe you're seeing rejection everywhere. Maybe you're seeing unfairness everywhere. Maybe you're seeing reasons to doubt yourself everywhere. Not because that's all reality contains, but because that's what your mind has been instructed to look for. And this is where life becomes dangerous. Because eventually, people stop questioning their stories. They simply live inside them. Someone experiences rejection. Their story becomes, nobody chooses me. Someone fails. Their story becomes, I'm not capable. Someone gets hurt. Their story becomes, people always leave. At first, they're just sentences, then beliefs, then expectations. Eventually, identities. This is how stories are born. A single moment, a single conclusion, and a brain that never stops collecting evidence for it. And here's something even scarier. A 10-second experience can create a 20-year story. A child answers a question incorrectly in class. Some students laugh. 10 seconds. That's all. But the brain creates a story. Speaking up is dangerous. Years later, they avoid attention. They don't share ideas. They stay quiet. They wonder why opportunities seem to pass them by. The event lasted 10 seconds. The story lasted decades. How many stories like that are running your life right now? How many decisions are being made by a younger version of you who didn't understand what was happening? Because whether you realize it or not, the stories in your head are not just describing your life. They're quietly creating it. Now here's the question. If our stories are so powerful, why don't we simply change them? Why doesn't someone wake up one morning and say, you know what? I'm done thinking negatively. From now on, I'll only think positive thoughts. Because the brain doesn't care whether a story is empowering or limiting. It cares whether the story feels familiar. And that's dangerous, because human beings will often choose a familiar pain over an unfamiliar possibility. Read that again. A familiar pain over an unfamiliar possibility. Read that again. A familiar pain over an unfamiliar possibility. Think about it. How many people stay in jobs they hate because at least they're predictable? How many people remain in unhealthy relationships because loneliness feels scarier than unhappiness? How many people continue doubting themselves because confidence feels strange and uncomfortable? The brain loves certainty, even when that certainty is slowly stealing your joy. Now here's what's fascinating. This familiar pain doesn't just live in one place. It shows up on 3 different levels: in your mind, in your emotions, and in your behavior. At the level of your mind, imagine you've lived in the same house your entire life. You know every room, every creak in the floor, every strange noise at night. One day somebody points to a beautiful house across the street and says, "You could live there instead." But here's the problem. You've never been inside. You don't know where anything is. It's unfamiliar. And suddenly, the old house, the one you were complaining about yesterday, starts feeling safe. Your beliefs work exactly the same way. Some people have lived inside stories like, "I'm not enough, nothing works out for me, I'm always behind," for so many years that these stories feel like home. Even though they're exhausted, even though they're unhappy, even though they're desperate for change. Because familiar pain still feels safer than unfamiliar possibility. But it doesn't stop in the mind. It moves into your emotions too. Imagine carrying a backpack since childhood. Every disappointment places a small stone inside. Someone laughs at you. Another stone. You fail at something. Another stone. Someone leaves your life. Another stone. Years go by. The backpack becomes heavier and heavier. Eventually, you're exhausted. Not because life is impossible, but because you've been carrying things that were never meant to become permanent. And the strange thing, many people become so used to the weight that they forget the backpack can actually be emptied. People become so accustomed to stress that peace feels suspicious. They're so used to anxiety that calm feels uncomfortable. They're so used to struggle that ease almost feels wrong. And then it reaches your behavior. Because eventually, you start wearing armor. You don't trust too much because you expect betrayal. You don't get excited because you expect disappointment. You don't dream too big because you expect failure. You're walking through life with emotional protection you no longer need. Preparing for battles that haven't happened. Solving problems that don't exist yet. Fighting ghosts. 3 levels. One source. The same familiar pain, living in your mind, your emotions, and your actions. And because you're constantly carrying all of this, you never fully arrive in the present moment. Imagine trying to watch a beautiful sunset while checking the weather forecast every 30 seconds. You miss the sunset. Not because it wasn't beautiful, but because your attention was somewhere else. This happens all the time. People miss opportunities because they're expecting problems. They miss love because they're expecting rejection. They miss peace because they're busy preparing for chaos. And here's something most people never stop to realize. These emotions don't stay inside you. They travel outward. They touch every person around you. There's a concept in psychology called emotional contagion. The feelings you carry don't stay inside you. They travel, like a tuning fork. When you strike one tuning fork and hold another nearby, the second one begins vibrating at the same frequency, without being touched, without knowing why. People absorb your frequency. Your anxiety makes others anxious. Your calmness makes others calm. Your belief that life is difficult quietly convinces the people around you that life is difficult. And your belief that things can work out can silently give someone else permission to believe the same. This is why your story matters far beyond just yourself. Because you are not just living your story. You are broadcasting it. Every single day. Here's another truth nobody talks about. Our emotions are terrible storytellers. Imagine standing beside a window during a storm. Rain is falling. The sky is dark, everything looks miserable. You think the whole world looks depressing today. But outside your tiny window, someone just got engaged. Someone just got hired. Someone just became a parent. Someone is laughing so hard they can't breathe. Someone is eating dinner with the people they love. Your window is real, but it isn't the entire world. And sometimes our emotions become windows. When we're hurt, everything looks painful. When we're lonely, everything feels lonely. When we're discouraged, the whole world appears discouraging. We mistake temporary emotional weather for permanent reality, and that's one of the biggest mistakes human beings make. Here's something else that's fascinating. Imagine walking into a movie theater 20 minutes late. You sit down and immediately watch a heartbreaking scene. Someone is crying. Everything seems terrible. You whisper to yourself, "Wow, this is such a sad movie." But what if 10 minutes later, everything changes? What if the characters reconcile? What if there's a happy ending? What if the painful scene was simply one chapter of a much bigger story? You don't know. Because you're judging the entire movie from one scene. Yet people do this with life constantly. One difficult year becomes, "My whole life is falling apart." One betrayal becomes, "Love never lasts." One failure becomes, "Success isn't meant for me." But you're still in the middle of the movie. You don't know what scene comes next, and sometimes you need to reach the summit before the path makes sense. Think about mountains. When you're climbing one, everything feels difficult. You're tired. Every step feels endless. You don't understand why the path keeps turning. Then imagine reaching the top. Suddenly, everything makes sense. You can see the valleys. You can see why certain turns existed. You can see things that were completely invisible from below. Life often works exactly like that. Many experiences only make sense from a perspective you don't have yet. We give movies patience. We give books patience. We give TV shows patience. But we rarely give our own lives that same patience. Sometimes your life isn't falling apart. Sometimes the plot is simply developing. And here's where things become even more interesting. Your brain is constantly asking questions. Most of these questions happen automatically. What if I fail? Why am I behind? Why does this always happen to me? What's wrong with me? The problem is this. Your brain treats questions like assignments. The moment you ask a question, your mind immediately starts searching for answers. Ask, "Why am I a failure?" And your brain goes to work. Memories appear. Mistakes appear. Embarrassing moments appear. Now ask a different question. What challenges have I already survived? Different memories appear. The heartbreak you survived, the hard season you made it through, the fears you overcame, the opportunities you created. Same brain, different question, different evidence, different reality. Think about a compass. A compass doesn't create the road. It doesn't build the path. It doesn't remove the obstacles in front of you. It simply points you in a direction. And that direction changes everything. 1 degree off on a compass might seem meaningless at first, but over 1,000 miles, you end up in a completely different place. Your questions work the same way. Ask the wrong questions every single morning for 10 years, and you end up somewhere you never wanted to be. Ask better questions for 10 years, and you arrive somewhere you couldn't have imagined. The compass doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to point somewhere worth going. Now here's where stories become truly dangerous. Because they don't just stay in your head, they grow up. Stories become expectations. Expectations become behaviors. Behaviors become habits. Habits become identities. And identities become lives. And identities are powerful. Because once something becomes your identity, your brain starts protecting it, even when it's hurting you. Someone says, "I've always been anxious. I've always been unlucky. I've always been this way." Listen carefully. Some of the stories you're calling your personality might simply be old conclusions that you've repeated so many times they now feel true. And here's something even more important. Imagine someone takes a photograph of you on your worst day. Tired eyes, messy hair, shoulders dropped, exhausted expression. Now imagine someone shows that photograph to the world and says, "This is who this person is." You would say, "That's not fair. That's just one moment." But here's the thing. That's exactly what most people do to themselves every single day. They take a photograph of one bad moment, one failure, one mistake, one painful season, and they frame it. They hang it on the wall of their mind, and they say, "This is who I am." But you are not a photograph. You are a video. Still recording, still moving, still changing. The person you were 3 years ago is not the person you are today. The person you are today is not the person you'll be 3 years from now. Photographs capture moments, videos tell stories, and your story is still being filmed. So tonight, I want you to ask yourself one question. What story have I been asking my brain to prove? Seriously, what is it? I'm behind. I'm not enough. I always fail. Nothing works out for me. Nobody understands me. Because your brain is incredibly loyal. It will spend years finding evidence for whatever story you repeatedly tell it. So choose carefully. Because one day you'll realize something profound. You weren't simply reacting to reality. You were participating in creating your experience of it. Now here's something beautiful. Growth doesn't always look like growth. Imagine a gardener planting seeds. On the first day, nothing happens. On the 7th day, nothing happens. On the 20th day, still nothing happens. Now imagine the gardener becoming frustrated. This is pointless. Nothing is growing. So every evening, he digs up the soil to check if the roots are there. Of course, nothing grows, because he never gives the roots enough time. In many ways, people treat themselves exactly like this. They read one book and expect transformation. They exercise for 2 weeks and expect confidence. They meditate for a few days and expect peace. And when the results don't appear immediately, they decide nothing's changing. But growth is often invisible at first. The roots are developing before the leaves appear. Strength is growing before you can feel it. Confidence is being built long before it becomes visible. Sometimes the most important changes in your life are happening beneath the surface. Children understand this naturally. Children fall down hundreds of times while learning to walk. Yet they don't sit on the floor and conclude, walking isn't meant for me. They don't create identities around failure. They simply try again and again. Eventually, the thing that once seemed impossible becomes natural. Somewhere along the way, adults forget this. We fail once, twice, maybe 3 times, and suddenly we create permanent conclusions. I'm bad at this. I'm not smart enough. Success isn't for me. No, you simply haven't practiced long enough. You haven't allowed enough roots to grow. And maybe that's what life has been doing all along, sculpting you. Think about how a sculptor works. They don't add material to create a masterpiece. They remove it. They chip away everything that isn't the final vision, piece by piece, layer by layer. Every painful experience, every difficult season, every failure, and every loss. These weren't things that happened to destroy you. Maybe they were the sculptor's tools, removing what wasn't serving you, clearing away what was never truly you, revealing who you actually are underneath. The sculptor doesn't apologize for the chisel, because the chisel is not the enemy. It's the instrument, and the masterpiece was always inside the stone. It just needed time and the right pressure to finally be revealed. And here's the beautiful part. If old stories can shape your life, new stories can shape it too. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're simply on a different timeline. Maybe you're not unlucky. Maybe you've survived things that would have broken other people. Maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're collecting information. Maybe life isn't happening against you. Maybe it's preparing you for something you cannot see yet. And maybe, just maybe, the story that changes your entire future begins with one simple decision. I will no longer use my mind to prove my limitations. I will use it to discover my possibilities. Because your story doesn't simply describe your life. Over time, it becomes your life. So write it carefully. And remember this: You are still in the middle of the movie. The roots are still growing underground. The mountain still has views you haven't seen. The sculptor is still working. And the next chapter of your story hasn't been written yet.